Hey everybody, Chris Lindsay here, and you're listening to Pitch List. Join us on a deep dive into the heart of what makes writing songs and making music so magical. Let's find out what makes songwriters tick, and along the way, remember why we love music. Welcome to Pitch List. Hey everybody, this is Pitch List, and I'm your host, Chris Lindsay. Well, spring has sprung in Nashville, and it feels amazing. Our guest today, and I'm really excited about her, is a multi-platinum pop writer and artist. She has cuts with the Chainsmokers, Shawn Mendes, Lennon Stella, Kahlid, BB Rexha, Noah Cyrus, Coin, 5 Seconds of Summer, and more. She was so generous to give us some of her time, and she did not disappoint. Pay attention. There are pearls of wisdom in this one. Okay, it's time for me to shut up and get on with the show. Here's Emily Warren. Good afternoon. We've got a great show for you today. I am so excited. We've rescheduled this show, and I've been waiting for a month to talk to our next guest. We have today a fabulous pop writer named Emily Warren. How are you, Emily?
I'm great. Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Well, thank you for being on our show. You know, we're based out of Nashville. We do a lot of Nashville writers, and I have had a few pop writers, but you are like a superstar pop writer, and I'm excited to talk to you.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm excited.
Man, your songs are amazing songs.
Thank you.
Now, I know you're from in the New York area, right?
Exactly, yeah. New York
But
City.
do you still live in New York, or are you out in L.A.?
I don't. I actually technically live in Wyoming. That's where I spend most of my time.
Really?
And just outside of Jackson Hole in a little town called Wilson. But part of the reason I live there is its proximity to LA, even though it's pretty much the opposite place. So I'm in LA now. I spend a lot of time here. And so, I kind of split my time between the two.
Well, that's amazing. Do you fly out of Jackson Hole?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah. We were up in Montana this summer. We went into Yellowstone, and we're up by just south of Livingston.
Yep.
I love it up there. It's so beautiful.
It's ridiculously beautiful.
It is
breathtaking.
Right where you're at, outside of Jackson Hole, it's the Tetons, right?
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Golly, man, it's magical up there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, the Tetons like legit take my breath away. That's why it was hard to not move there.
Yeah, it's incredible, and it's not. What is it? Like an hour and a half flight to LA?
Exactly. It's straight. If you can go direct, it's just under 2 hours. So yeah, it's not bad.
Wow, that's great. Well, you already got that figured out. That's awesome.
Yeah, feeling very fortunate and lucky that I get to straddle the two.
Now, how do you work that? Because we are a songwriting podcast and we love to hear details about stuff. So do people come visit you to co-write?
Yeah, I tend to come to LA to kind of do, like, for the most part, people I've never met before, and kind of like hop around and do like a couple days at a time. And then with people that I want to really lock in with, they'll come out to Wyoming for like 5 or 6 days, and I have a studio there, and we'll just kind of bang stuff out. It's super inspiring. There's like hiking and rafting and stuff like that in the summer, and skiing in the winter, so we'll tend to like go do an activity in the morning and then go back to the house and write. And a lot of awesome stuff for me has happened at that house, which is great because it's justified now. But Don't Start Now, song I did for Dua Lipa, we wrote there. The song that I wrote for her, We're Good, that came out last night, actually, we did there. So it's definitely fruitful working there, which is great.
Well, and I imagine that your co-writers and the artists that you work with probably love it, right? Get out of town. It's so magical up there.
Totally.
And, get out, away from everything, and I bet they love it.
Yeah, it's good. I think in LA, although it's amazing, you tend to kind of get caught up in the rat race almost, and definitely Groundhog's Day. And I think as soon as people land there and just see wide open vistas, it's immediately kind of like calms you down, and people are able to just be creative and not really worry about too much while they're there, which is great.
The first time I went out to Montana, I stayed with some people on a writer's retreat, and they had a house on the Yellowstone River. But
wow,
out there, it's just, well, they call it big sky country, but it is. It's like, it's so vast when you stand out there,
right.
And you do feel so connected, I think, in the West out there. So when you're doing your writing thing, do you work with tracks often, or are you in the room with people working on tracks while you're in there? Or does it all happen all different ways for you?
All different ways, but I would say like close to 99% of the time, which is lucky because it's my preference, we're starting from scratch. I'm with a producer who's kind of like building the track as we're talking and as we're getting in the room. I find it really hard to write to track. I think I've actually missed out on a lot of opportunities because I get tracks to do things, and I'm just like, it's just harder for me to kind of not be in the room with everyone, kind of getting the vibe.
I've always thought the track thing is hard. And then the other thing, I don't know if they still do it, but back in the day, you get a track from somebody who's really great track person, then you find out they'd send it out to 10 different writers.
Right. Totally. Yep.
To see what and when I found that out, it was really hard for me ever to do that again. Yeah. Because it's like, man, I mean,
Battle of the Bands.
Come on. Does that still go on? Is that still a thing? Yeah, for sure.
I think that's also like every time I get a pack of tracks, that's in the back of my mind. And it's also like, if the verse is not exactly the right length, like if you want to cut the verse, or if the chorus isn't in the right place, it's just kind of like, you're very confined to whatever is already there, which to me is like, you don't need any confinement when you're writing a song. I think it's better if you can just kind of do whatever and move it around.
I think that's great, because that's a more pure songwriting point of view, starting with a piano or a guitar or a track or whatever.
Right. Totally.
Yeah. How often do you write? Do you write every day, or do you write a couple days a week, or how does that go for you?
Great question, especially given this year, which I think was out of the ordinary for me. I spent the first like 3 or 4 years that I was really starting in pop writing 7 days a week, sometimes double sessions on a day, and I got really burnt out. And then I had like a 5 or 6 month period where I literally could not write one word. So I've taken a way more chill approach, especially this year. I've found Zoom sessions and all that really hard. It kind of takes out my favorite part of being in a session, which is like really getting to know people and taking time, not worrying about a song coming, just letting the song come if it comes. So, and I've obviously not been able to do that many things in person, so it's been way less, but I have found that I need to be creative. Even if I'm not writing songs, I have to do something or I go crazy. So there's been a lot of cooking and painting and that kind of stuff. But yeah, I definitely don't write every day. And it's interesting. I was working with some people yesterday who were saying they can't take a day off because, like a muscle, they lose the strength, they lose the skills if they don't write every day. And I come from a totally different place where like I'd rather be so fresh when I enter a session and so ready to like start from a clear place. I think when I do too many things in a row, I start reusing lyrics and recycling ideas. So yeah, that's where I'm at right now.
I think that's good. And like you said, you already did the thing where you're just slamming 7 days a week, double sessions. There's a time for that for everyone,
Definitely.
I think. But there's also, the burnout's a real thing, and I'm with you. I want to walk in excited, not like dragging my ass in there.
Totally.
For me, getting away from it is the best thing I can do.
I totally
agree. The more
I
try to write, the worse I get.
I agree. And I think, like, obviously I don't know what was going on necessarily with my favorite. I mean, if we think about like the Beatles and stuff like that, like I don't know if they had ideas going every day, but I know that this like grind of working every day and like showing that you're in the studio every day is kind of like a modern like method almost. And like I think if I have the feeling to continue to keep writing every day and sit down at the piano, I'm going to do it. But I think to do it because there's like a pressure too is something that I really had to teach myself to not succumb to almost.
Yeah, because maybe you just don't want that to enter into it. You want it to be from a joyful place, not like you have to do it.
100%.
To me, Nashville's a little more, people will take Saturday and Sunday off.
Right.
It's pretty unusual. I've worked on the weekends many, many times, but it's a little more of a thing here, I think, than LA. Like people don't work on Saturday and Sunday. Have you had a Nashville experience? Have you come to Nashville to write?
I have. I actually loved writing in Nashville because I was, which I guess is kind of the norm there. Like a lot of people have kids, so they have to leave at like 3:00, which is foreign to me. So I'd get out at 3 and be like, oh my God, like I have an entire day. What do I do with this day? But I love writing in Nashville. I feel like, especially when I went there, which was several years ago now, it was so refreshing to write with people who were so invested in storytelling and just really making sure the song had good story. And I think over here in LA, we've started to adopt that a little more in the past few years, but certainly at the time it was very like concept-y, like kind of basic pop lyrics. So when I went to Nashville, it was like really awesome, really so many talented, amazing people there and just a great vibe in general.
Yeah, traditionally there has been a difference in country music lyric. Or where just Nashville writers, I think, pay attention more to lyric.
Definitely.
It's really, that's all they really care about, really, because the musical style doesn't change that much and it's not as adventurous.
True.
So it's all lyric here. But I agree with you. I have noticed in the last 2 or 3 years, there's a lot of cross-pollination. The LA writers are listening to country lyrics, or they're coming here because there's a lot of pop music now that has great lyrics.
Totally.
Like really, really good, I think.
But I think, and still now, like I think melody is kind of the priority here. And like you said, lyric is kind of the priority there. And I think the meeting of both is where the magic is at. And so I've definitely noticed more Nashville writers coming out here and know that a lot of people here have been visiting out there. So I think the more that we, like you said, cross-pollinate, the better.
Yeah, I agree. I had a question that's come in my head. I'm going to ask you. It's a little bit. Some of the songs that have been big hits for you. Are you a type of writer? Do you know when you've written a song that's going to be pretty big and you think you know it's going to be big, or are you surprised?
It's so funny you asked this. I was just having this conversation the other night because like I've never known. It's always a surprise. The only time I kind of knew was the day we wrote Don't Start Now for Dua Lipa. I was like, oh, this sounds really good. And I don't want to jinx it, but I also felt really good about the song that came out last night. So I'm hoping that I'm 2 for 2 on that one, but we'll see.
Now, what's the title? I haven't read about this. What's the title of the one that came out last night?
It's called We're Good.
We're Good? Mm-hmm. Awesome. I'll go check it out when we're done. I haven't heard it.
Yeah, just brand new.
I was looking this morning again at some of your stuff. I've never seen these kind of numbers. Your song, Don't Let Me Down, right, with Chainsmokers, which you got a Grammy for, right? Congratulations, by the way. That's amazing.
Thank you so much.
I was on YouTube this morning, and I think I got this right. I looked twice. 1.6 billion views.
That's insane. You just gave me the chills. I didn't even know.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, that's crazy.
I think that's right. I looked at it twice because I thought, holy shit. And then Masterpiece, which is another song you wrote that I just love, man.
Thank you.
That has right close to 1 billion views. Those are crazy numbers.
Yeah, absurd. Hard to even wrap my head around, to be honest.
Yeah, your songs are huge. And you also write, you write all kinds of stuff, but you're really good at tempo, which is great. You know, that's what artists, I don't know about pop as much in country, but that's the holy grail, to try to get a country artist a tempo that'll work, you know. It's a hard thing to do. Is it the same true in pop?
For sure. I think I actually came from a place where I always wanted to write sad, like self-indulgent ballady things, and had kind of a moment of realization where that doesn't feel good. Like it feels good for a second, and then if you're sad, that doesn't actually help you.
Right.
I actually reference this all the time, but I went to the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam with a couple of friends of mine when we were there for a show, and there was one painting. It's one of his famous paintings that is just like a twin bed in a room. It's super colorful, and the plaque under it said that he painted that right after he checked himself into a mental institution, and the idea was he wanted to paint something that would make him feel better, not something that was like a representation of how he actually felt. And that was such a big moment for me to see that, because I was like, okay, this is such a good way to frame music. Like, sure, it's good to listen to a sad song when you're sad, but what you kind of need is like a little glimmer of hope, like something that feels like what you want to feel like, that can make you feel better. So I've tried, since I've seen that, honestly, to try and like still do the emotional lyric, but maybe over like a more dancey track, or if it's going to be emotional the whole way through and kind of moody in the track, to kind of put some lyric in there that gives someone an out. But yeah, I thank you. That was a long-winded answer, but I've definitely tried to be intentional about framing emotion the right way, trying to make it positive in some way.
Well, I think it's so smart, because in addition to everything, and I'm assuming that what I'm going to say is true for pop as it is for country, artists write a lot in country now. They didn't used to, but they do now, and they're going to write the sad songs.
Right.
They're gonna have them. They've already written them. They got their heart broken, and they've written 3 great songs about that asshole who broke their heart. And as a writer, when you're coming in on a project, they've already got those.
Totally. So true.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And I love your take on it too. Is, you know, why? I mean, sometimes you got to. I mean, there's been some great ballads, and some of my favorite songs are ballads. I'm not saying people shouldn't write ballads, but I love what you said. Don't write about how you feel. Write about how you want to feel. You know?
And
That's
actually,
great.
One more thought on that. Sorry, I wrote with the Chainsmokers after their first album. They were in kind of like a dark place because they were getting totally like torn apart in the media, and the tour, which was amazing, was getting completely ripped apart every time someone came to review it. People would be like, I hate them, but I kind of like the show, but I hate them. And it was like everything.
What was the, and I don't mean to interrupt you, want to hear the rest of the story, but what was the knock? Was it just they're too popular? People like them too much?
I think so.
Everybody just jumped on them?
I think they also had they had written that song Selfie. That was like the way that they originally blew up. So no one was willing to take them fully seriously. Like, I think every comment was like, I actually really like this, but I actually don't like them. It was just like, no one was willing to just embrace it. And obviously personally, that was just really hard. Like, especially when you've poured yourself into an album and a tour, I think that was really hard for them to kind of stomach that, like, no matter what, they wouldn't be taken seriously. So we started writing the next album, Sick Boy, which was like very much about what that felt like. I was writing it with them on the tour, so like right in the middle of how it happened. And although it was a good release, I think the following tour, when they toured on that album, kind of reminding themselves every night, singing the lyrics over and over again of how bad it felt, was just like perpetuating that feeling, and ultimately like not that fun to dance to, or for them. I think if you're singing everyone hates me, everything sucks, like everyone hates us, like you're just telling yourself that over and over again. So I always try and think about that too. Like, all right, this artist is gonna go out and sing this song every night, ideally on tour. Like, what is it you want to tell yourself? Like how much you suck or how awesome you are.
Right. And in a way, they're writing a story. Like Tony Robbins, that motivational guy, or he doesn't like to be called that, but the guru Tony Robbins talks about that. You know, people write stories about how their life is, or they're given stories by their parents or whoever raises them. media, everything. And then
Right.
they just follow those stories. And you're, like you said, they're writing. It's really so interesting what you said and so smart. They sort of set in concrete what they were going to be doing. The first time I saw something that I thought about this concept was the last big Taylor Swift tour. I think it was Reputation, I think was what it was. When the record first came out, there were some songs on it that I thought they're really sort of uncharacteristic for her, and I didn't quite get them. When we went out to the show, I'm like, she wrote that record for the live show.
Totally.
You know what I mean? She wrote, I think, I didn't ask her, but my impression was that, okay, a lot of this was done forward thinking into what the tour would be.
Of course. Exactly. And I think totally, like, I'm a huge proponent of writing about what's really happening. I think just being cognizant of like giving yourself a glimmer of hope and just framing it in a way that's like, this isn't permanent. This is just how I feel right now, but I'm going to be okay. Or like, but I'm going to get out of this, or I'm stronger because of this. Just something.
Well, yeah. And people go to movies. They don't want to watch a whole movie and then have it end with everyone unhappy and nobody gets what they want. No, but nobody will go to that movie, and they don't want it in songs either, I don't think.
No, totally.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Pitch List will be right back. Hey, everybody. I want to take a minute and talk about something that probably everyone in the music industry has dealt with at one point or another, and that's our mental health. Our sponsor, BetterHelp, can get you connected to your own licensed professional therapist in a safe, affordable online environment. If something is interfering with your happiness or preventing you from achieving your goals, it's time to take the first step toward a healthier and happier life. I'm sure you've figured out by now that the music business is extremely challenging and can be a serious strain on your mental health. On a personal note, I don't know where I would be without the counselors who've helped Amy and I throughout the years. BetterHelp will assess your needs and get you communicating with your counselor in under 48 hours. You'll be able to send a message to your counselor anytime and get timely and thoughtful responses. Plus, you can schedule weekly video or phone sessions, all from the comfort of your own home. As a listener, you'll get 10% off your first month by visiting our sponsor at betterhelp.com/songwriter. betterhelp.com/songwriter. Join over 1 million people who have taken charge of their mental health. Again, that's betterhelp.com/songwriter. Now, let's talk about your artist career for you, because you've got records yourself. You have a beautiful voice.
Oh, thank you so much.
Really beautiful.
Thank you.
Wow. Are you constantly working on your artist career? Is that you do in between your work with other people? How does that work for you?
Not constantly, and that's sort of a half-assed attempt at being an artist. I think I way prefer helping other people tell their stories, but occasionally I have a collection of songs that I wrote for me that doesn't matter who wants to cut it. I don't really feel great about giving it away. And that was kind of the catalyst for me putting my album out. And it was just fun to kind of like, there are some not always frustrating, but just like there's some pieces of being the writer where that's where your job ends when you leave the room. And you don't get to be involved in the visuals or the videos or anything or any of that. And so I just wanted to experience that and experience making my own videos and artwork and stuff like that. And it was fun. But like, God bless artists. That is such a hard job. I did like 2 days of promo and I was like, okay, this is not for me. This is not fun at all.
No.
So
no, not after you've written songs with 1.6 billion plays on YouTube and you've got a place in Wyoming. No, you're thinking I can go to bed in my own bed every night.
Exactly.
And hang out with cool people and work. You really need to be cut out to be you really need to want to be on stage, to put up with what they have to put up with.
Yep.
Like you really almost have to need to do it.
100%. 100%. And that's like not at all where I was coming from. It was just like a passion project. And then I found myself like answering questions about to like magazines and stuff, and it was like, if I don't do this, no one's gonna hear it. And then it's like, do I care if anyone hears it? And it was just like, okay, this was just like for fun, and now it's like not fun. So so seriously, like, so grateful that there are people who give us a job that want to do that, because it's so hard and so taxing and so like just relentless. And yeah, so
yeah, it is. And it's hard. You know, nobody wants to hear a famous pop singer with a jet complain,
Right.
you know, about their life. They don't. So no one talks about it, but it is hard. It's hard for anybody to have a family. It's hard, you know, they're gone all the time. It's hard to, it's a difficult lifestyle. It really is. It's you got to really want that. I think a writer lifestyle is way better.
100%, like
I think it's way better.
100%. And
Yeah.
we get to take like risks, I think, of like, I can try anything, and it's kind of on someone else's ass if it doesn't work. Like, we can just move around and kind of do anything, and it doesn't really matter what anyone thinks or if anyone else thinks it's cool. It's just like, it's very freeing.
Yeah.
And very fun.
And I think it's good to make records. I've had friends, and I've been in little groups that we've made songwriter records through the years. It puts you through the process, I think, and it can really help you understand what an artist is going through. But the more you can know about the artist and what where they're at, the better, you know. But it's probably true when you're writing with them too, right?
Totally. I mean, yeah, I think I always try and get a true story out of whoever I'm in the room with. But I think to bring up the Chainsmokers again, and actually that example of touring with them, I've been really fortunate to know them since the very beginning. And so every time we sit down and write, it's not like I know exactly what's going on. I know who they're dating. I know what's going on with their family. Like, we're actually friends. So that's always a really fun kind of thing, because it's like we can always draw from the truth. And that's the most satisfying to me.
Have they sort of stabilized in how it's all going for them and them enjoying it and everything?
Yeah, I think this year's been really a beautiful time for those of us fortunate to like take advantage of a pause. I think their like original run of whatever it was, like 5 or 6 humongous songs in a row, is just like so not a thing that happens or that you can hold yourself to. But when that's how your career starts, it's hard to ever remember that. And I think this year, I've seen it with them. I've seen it with a lot of other people. We all got to, not we all, but some of us got to stop and remember how important it is to focus on the things and the people and just the things that are important to us. And I think they were so busy all the time. They had a residency in Vegas every single weekend and touring and all this stuff. And they didn't really get a chance to like stop and be creative. And now that they have, like, the album that's almost done is like some of the most amazing stuff they've made and that I've ever been a part of. And so I've been this is a side note, but like, I honestly think, similarly to the Roaring 20s, like a renaissance is coming with music, because everyone's just had the year to like make 100 songs and pick the best album out of it, versus like squeezing a session in here and there and getting an album done. So I'm like so excited for the music that's going to come out.
That's a great point. It's a great point. I used to think about it in Nashville. Everybody writes every day, and you're in there for 3 or 4 hours, and you got to get the song finished. And I always saw this thought of, what if you took like 5 of the best writers in Nashville and locked them in a studio for a year?
Right.
Like these 80s and 70s rock bands did. And they wrote like 100 songs, and like you said, pick the best 10. How good would it be? We don't even know, because we're just going every day. Bam, 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 bam. I hadn't thought of it, but you're right. There's probably going to be an explosion of really great stuff coming.
And everyone's waiting for everyone to be vaccinated. It's going to be, I think it's going to be incredible.
Yeah, buy stock in American Airlines, I think. 'Cause it's going to, when everybody gets vaccinated, it's going to blow up.
True. That's so true.
What about your, I know it's a common question, but I'm always interested, your influences. Like the music that sort of made you want to be a writer and a singer, and what you grew up and who you liked and all that kind of stuff. Who are your influences?
So, my dad is very musical. He has a band with his friends. And so they always played like 60s rock covers. So I was exposed to like, the Beatles were a huge, huge one just because he played it all the time. And
they're the best.
They're literally the best. Still to this day, like that's the thing I listen to the most just because it doesn't ever stop giving. But the Beatles are a big one. I think after that, when I started getting into my own stuff, after I did like Britney and NSYNC and Backstreet Boys, it was Gavin DeGraw was a big one. John Mayer. John Mayer's probably the biggest one for me just because I really got into his music and shortly after that started writing music. So he was kind of like that was the template for me.
Okay. What was the album that really got you going?
I actually saw him. The first time I saw him was when he performed "Your Body Is a Wonderland" on the Grammys.
Okay.
So
yeah. Oh, I remember my wife Amy's a writer also. Every girl writer in Nashville, I thought, passed out when they saw that.
I was like 11.
Him singing that song, I thought we're going to have to give smelling salts to the entire town.
Yeah.
Crazy.
I went crazy. I walked to Tower Records the next day and bought Room for Squares and have been a fan ever since. But to me, what's so amazing there's so many amazing things about his writing, but lyrically, I've always felt like he can make you feel something by telling his own details. That is always really mind-blowing to me, considering like thinking about making something so specific that's also general in a way. And also I love how the melody always goes with the lyric in the sense that like it always turns a little sad in the melody when the lyric turns a little sad. I just think his like pairing of lyric and melody is always perfect.
Right on. Yeah. Those are great points. And he's a badass guitar player too.
Yeah. Absurd. And the fact that like if someone sits down and starts playing one of his songs on guitar, like within 2 notes, you know what song it is. I just think it's such good songwriting.
Have you gotten to work with him?
No. I'm scared. I don't know. It's daunting to me. I don't think I want to meet him. He's too much of a god in my eyes.
I have few. Mine are older. I'm older than you, but there's a guy named Jimmy Webb who wrote all the Glenn Campbell stuff and just an amazing songwriter. And I've been around him at events, and my wife will try to introduce me, and I'm like, I just don't want to meet him.
No,
I just don't. I just too freaked out. I'm too freaked out, and what if it goes badly? You know.
Yep.
But he's a nice guy. I've met John before.
Oh yeah.
He's I think y'all hit it off. And guess what? He has a place. It's very close to where you're at. You should write with him, Emily. You should go get him and write with him.
All right, if you say so.
Well, I'm just a fan. I'm a fan of both of y'all.
Oh,
I'm sure all the fans listening to this will be like, yeah, they should get together.
Wow.
Y'all might write something incredible.
I mean, I'm down. Deep down in my soul, I'm down. I'm just scared.
Yeah, he's a sweetheart.
I have nothing to add. It would be insane to, I'm like, taught me everything I know. What am I going to say in this session?
Yeah. But I do get it. Because I don't like to do name drop stories, but I met him with Taylor Swift.
Oh, wow.
But I walked away that night. We went back and jammed at her place, and first of all, he just blew me away as a guitar player. Blew me away. There were other people there, and they were calling out random covers, and he knew every one of them.
Wow.
You know? And then the other thing, he was a super nice guy. I was extremely impressed with him.
Love to hear that. That was actually the last concert I saw before lockdown, I'm happy to say.
Just drive up there and stalk him.
All right, that's a good idea.
Tell him you got 1.6 billion plays.
I'll knock on the door. He'll like that.
So, and was Masterpiece your first big hit?
Yeah, for sure. I wrote that with one of my best friends here in LA. Her name is Britt Burton. It was our first time meeting, and that was just like that was wow. Crazy. And I still remember the day it came out. I was with my best friend, and we were just like hysterically crying and just so excited. So that was an amazing one, very important one.
Yeah, and so I guess I thought that Jessie J was a writer on it. So do you just pitched that to her, right? Is that right?
And actually it's funny because I had already been writing for a couple of years, and it never worked out when we tried to like target a specific artist. But that day the producer was like, I know Jessie J is looking for songs, and we targeted it and it worked out, that's the only time that's ever worked pretty much.
It is a difficult thing to do, isn't it? The target thing. We never have much luck here. I've had a couple things, but it's really hard when so-and-so's looking and they've cut your songs before, we can just take it right in. It's like, oh, why did you have to say that?
Yeah.
I think it'd have been better if you didn't say it and we could just take them a song.
Exactly. I think again, like writing to track, in my opinion, it just kind of locks you in, and then it's like, if they don't take it, then what?
Right. Now, I read that you started with Prescription as publisher. Do you still write for them, or do you doing your own thing now?
Yeah, I'm still with Prescription. Been with them since the beginning. Actually, Rhea, who signed me at Prescription, she came to one of my band's shows in like 2008, and
wow.
So I've known her for a long time.
So you've had a good experience with your publisher through the years?
Yeah, they're amazing. Like, if I were out today, I would sign with them again. I like could not do this without Rhea. She's been amazing, and they've just been super supportive. So I love that.
That's awesome. If you don't mind, I'd like to talk a little bit. We have a lot of listeners of the podcast who are newer writers, or just getting either maybe they have another career and they're considering it, or they're younger. That's a question I get a lot about. Do I need a publisher? Do I not need a publisher? You know that question. I'm sure you've had that. People ask you that too. What are your thoughts? Obviously for you, it's been a good thing, right? To have a great publisher, right?
Totally. And I appreciate that I'm an anomaly in that. I don't know a ton of people who love their publishers as much as I do. And the answer is kind of complicated. I don't think I would have signed publishing at the time if it weren't for Rhea. So I always try I get the question a lot too. And I always try and say, like, beyond the company, it's about the person. You could get totally lost at like a smaller boutique publishing company if you don't have a person, and you can be totally taken care of at one of the majors if there's someone who's like really going to go to bat for you. So I feel like if you can afford it, there's no reason to rush into it. Even if you can wait a couple months and have them try and set up a few sessions for you and just see like if waiting a couple months makes them lose interest, or if it makes them like really want to show you what they're able to do, that's kind of really revealing.
Well, that's a good one. Okay.
Yeah.
I love that.
Totally. But yeah, I think publishers, when they're amazing, are completely amazing and necessary. I think it's hard, especially if you don't have a good manager or anything like that. Like, it's just hard to get in certain rooms without someone going to bat for you. So, but it's a long-term, it's a very long-term thing. So it's gotta be the right thing.
Right. And it's like you said, and all the people I've known that had a great publishing relationship, it's a person. It's a person that they work with, that they love, and that helps them and knows how to whisper to the writer when the writer's not having a good time, and just knows the whole thing and gives you that confidence.
Totally.
But I can say, when you have a great plugger, it's an awesome thing.
Right.
It's an awesome thing because they can really keep you focused. There's a lot of rejection in the songwriting business, right? Even for someone like you, I'm quite sure.
Yep.
With the massive numbers you have, you still may get disappointed from time to time, right? Or they didn't cut it, or they did it and it didn't come out, or supposed to be a single and not. I'm sure you have those stories, right?
Oh yeah. There's a lot more no's than there are yeses.
Yeah. And a good publisher can really help with that.
Definitely.
One more process question I had, and we touched on it, but I want to get a little deeper. It sounded like maybe you didn't love the Zoom writing thing, having to write by Zoom. Is that, did I catch that right?
Yep. I'm unfortunately for my whole team very resistant to the Zoom sessions.
Yeah. It's just missing a big part of it, isn't it?
Yeah. And actually, I was talking to some people yesterday who were saying they didn't like at the beginning, and they've come around, because you can kind of like play a track, everyone agrees on a track, and then they hang up and they all go do a part, and then they come back and share. To me, like, I so kind of depend on the collaboration part of it. That's what's fun to me, like really digging in with someone. And so if I'm not in the room with them and the idea is to like hang up, I get how that can be productive. But to me, it's like my favorite part about it is kind of missing in that context.
Yeah. I'm sure you're always doing this. Are you always looking for new artists that are on the horizon that you want to work with? Do you kind of pick people that you want to work with?
Yeah, definitely. My like favorite thing is getting in with people super early and helping them kind of figure out their sound. And I think like I'd almost rather do that than like try and compete for like a bigger artist cut. Just to me, again, I'm bringing the Chainsmokers up. I'm obsessed with them, but like just having been involved in that project from the beginning is just so satisfying. Like I said, because we're friends and just like I get to evolve with them and really feel like I'm a part of something. And similarly, it's not quite the same with Dua. Obviously, she was in a different place, but like getting in that project early and kind of being there as the different albums come out and like moving the sounds around with her has been really fun. It feels that's like really satisfying to me. So I'm always sending my publisher and my manager like people that I love. A lot of times the people that I love do not write songs with other people, so that's always a thing. But yeah, I love working with newer artists. That's my favorite.
Yeah, I figured that because looking at your resume, you have these longer term relationships where you're invested. And it's true. I think it's more fun because you can share. You share in the success. Look, having a hit song on anybody's an amazing thing, right? But when you're involved with the whole project, and like you said, your friends, it's deeper and more personal, and it's more rewarding.
100%. I'll take that any day.
It is fun to find somebody new, somebody new and raw, and you can get in there, and it is fun.
Totally. Yeah.
Well, listen, I have taken a lot of your time, Emily. I could talk to you I could ask you questions for a whole day. Okay.
Thank you.
But I know you're busy. So I just wanted to say, first of all, I love all your songs. I know all of our listeners are going to freak out that you took the time to talk to us.
My pleasure.
And we're all huge fans of what you do. So I just want to say thank you for your time, number one. Thanks for being on the show. And I cannot wait to go hear this new song you got.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much for having me. It's fun talking to you. And
thanks for being on the show, Emily. And just keep on rocking. And maybe I'll see you out at Yellowstone one summer.
Hell yeah. That'd be amazing.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a good one.
Okay, you too.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Pitch List, produced in partnership with the American Songwriter Podcast Network. If you enjoyed today's show, please subscribe to us on Apple Podcast or your preferred listening platform. And if you want, feel free to leave us a 5-star rating and review. For exclusive content from this week's guest and more, you can visit our website at pitchlistpodcast.com. or follow our social media pages on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter. To hear songs written and or recorded by today's guest, check out this week's playlist by finding us on Spotify at Pitch List Podcast. Plus, don't forget to let us know on social media what songwriter, musician, or music business professional you want to hear from next. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.